Hello, my beloveds. Welcome to this video today with myself, Georgia Oshara. If you are new here, remember to subscribe, and everybody, please just give us a like and a follow so that we can, spread these beautiful messages and help other people who may be experiencing some of these things we're going to talk about today, and for them to find a new path to healing themselves and empowering themselves to take this action of self-care and self-love. So today we're going to be talking about mainly the womb space, women's feminine uh, disease and things like that that can come up for us, why it comes up, and what we do about it in the Tao Tantric sense. So I'm going to go through 9 different protocols with you. Okay, 9 different reasons why someone might come to me for a mentorship, for instance, and then we're going to dive into some of the protocols that we work with so that you can start to release some of these things. Why we work with certain things that we do in those certain circumstances, because each thing is very unique, and our bodies are all unique. We respond differently, we react differently to different things. And some of these things have a similar thread to maybe why they've manifested, but it can also be very different, a little bit more complex than that. Okay, so we'll dive into it and you'll kind of get the idea. Number one, this is one of the most common, and it is menstruation, heavy bleeding, uh, really intense PMS. Some women actually start to get extreme emotions and pain, discomfort during this time. And this could be that in their everyday life, maybe that they are pushing themselves a lot as well. We're looking at this energetics. So while there could be other reasons, which would be more of a clinical examination, I'm looking at the metaphysical side of this, okay? So the metaphysical side is that we look at how a female may be pushing herself in her life, maybe not looking at some of her problems and her issues. Maybe she feels a lot of heaviness from the world and actually takes on a lot of the pain of the world and all the things that are going on. So when she comes to menstruate, she feels this heaviness and this pain through her womb space because she's not really able to process it in her everyday life. So often, people work constantly, and for women who are in cycles and rhythms of nature and their menstruation, actually there's needing this kind of slowing down during that winter, our inner winter, and our menstruation, because we want to allow that process to happen more easily. But if we're continuing to try and work the same, go to the gym the same, it could cause disruptances. Some of us, we might be macro counting and doing running and doing weights and doing all these different activities as well as work that's really stressful and you have deadlines. So then suddenly the menstruation comes, and because you want to keep going, it then kind of starts to expand and feel more achy, more painful than it even needs to be, because the body is saying, I just want to slow down a bit. Can we just eat a little bit more this week? Can we just cut one of those classes this week? Can we just, ask to extend that deadline another week so that I can go through this actual physical releasing? It's a release, and there's so much work that's going on in the body to create all these hormones are moving through the body. So we need to give that time for the body. So for this, we would work with some breast massage would really help. And so there'll be Taoist breast massage with particular moves. We use pressure points so that we can start to ease off the body. And then eventually it can actually help. The breast massage is so powerful, it can actually help with the menstruation. If you keep doing it every single day and you actually come to um, the time of the month, you may find that it eases off because you've kept a nice, easeful, restful state in the body through balancing the hormones in with the breasts, the meridians as well, which we go into much depth through the practice. So now we're here to number 2, and this could be prolapse. This is quite a common thing for women who have had children because, of course, they have gone through maybe quite a few births as well. And this is kind of a natural thing that could occur, but it could also be due to how the muscles have been strained during the pregnancies and the birth process, and how we look at this with a metaphysical lens. Maybe it feels like we've lost so much of ourselves, we lost the holding and the shape of who we truly are, and we feel this kind of collapsing. There's so much another layer of that I get from women is feeling that they're a little bit lost after they've had children and they've spent so long just being a mother and wanting to take on that role that they've lost parts of themselves. So they feel that they need to kind of collect that back up, bring that back up. So there's almost this kind of, if you think prolapse is coming down, and it's almost like we want to bring that back up. It's like the body's still trying to bring something, it's just in this process of like releasing the children, and it hasn't been able to come back to itself, because it was pushing itself out towards the child. So that's just one metaphysical potential that has been looked at through the somatic practices that I work with clients. So sometimes we play out roles so that we can kind of find the dynamic that's going on in the body. So we talk to the body, we talk to the prolapse itself, we talk to different body parts to start to recollect that, talk to the parts of ourselves that gave birth, the parts of us that before the birth, parts of us after. So we can kind of get a bigger picture, and those realizations that start to happen from that dialogue actually resurfaces a level of healing and power, and that energy can come back. And then whether it's that brings back and heals the prolapse, there's also these things start to come into our lives and we can start to reweave. Of course, Qigong, certain Qigong practices we can do that help to cultivate more stability in the body as well and support the body in that way. So there's lots of different ways that we can work with this. And it'd be interesting to hear if anyone else had experienced, this transition between thoughts and how we've somatically liberated something. So we have number 3 now, and number 3 is about infertility. Okay, and there can be so many reasons again for this. But could there be a subconscious feeling that you're not enough, or maybe you don't feel that you have the right energy to give to that? Maybe there's lots of other things going on in your life that are taking your life force and putting your life force in other areas rather than going in and down into the womb. There's so many different things. So what we would do in this circumstance is we would again go back into chi cultivating exercises to bring and raise up that chi energy. We may have a dialogue, again going through the somatic practices, to have a dialogue with the womb space, with the ovaries, with parts of yourself that want to have different experiences, whether that's having children or not having children. If there's a part of you that's not fully ready or decided. I actually know a woman who had an experience where she couldn't conceive, and then she had gone through past life regression, and through that she received information from her past life of losing her child in this other lifetime in like a Victorian. It was a very long time ago. And she was able to heal that experience through the regression. And then when she came back out of her regression, I suppose, then this ability to conceive actually emerged. So this is just showing us how potent, like this side, I'm calling it the metaphysical, but this how potent our ancestral lineage affects, certain things happening now. Our past lives or other lives affect this now experience. I know I speak about this a lot in my other videos and the things that have happened that I've revealed along my journey. And I like to do this with clients as well, is just take them on little, what I call it, quantum meditation journeys, to go back and receive these information, this understanding of different lives, or go to different planets so that we can actually start to collect some very sacred codes. And this even happened recently at my yoni initiation workshop. And without actually even saying about reclaiming codes, because usually sometimes I name it, but I didn't in this instance. And this woman had a very powerful experience with Mother Mary coming to her and gave her this crown. She was almost like telling her, to be sovereign and be her own queen and her inner queen, not like in a queen like we do here in England, but it's like this inner queen, this very sovereign about our body, sovereign to ourselves and our have complete dominion over our own being. And that's what she was sort of receiving through this meditation that I took her on, and I thought that was just super fascinating. And yeah, it's symbolic, but it has an energetic ripple into our physical reality as well. So we have come to number 4, and this is about low libido. And in the Tao, we call this, whether you want to call it the same thing or they're kind of coherent together, I would say, is cold womb. So I don't know if many people would know about having a cold womb, but this would be seen as having a deficiency in yang. And having a deficiency in the yang energy that doesn't really cultivate then this like inspiration and desire to maybe make love or have some pleasure, or even just that beautiful life force energy that creates all things. Because so often we think libido, we think about sexual energy being just for mating and intercourse, but truly this life force energy is here to express and be, in all of our lives for creativity and all these different things. So I often see with women who are struggling with their creativity, struggling to connect even to their heart, struggling to connect to more of life and feel excited by life. They feel quite timid and shy and afraid to even like show their bodies and reveal their bodies in a certain way because they think that it could get projected off in a certain way. It's almost like they're hiding and trying not to have a libido because they don't want to be seen, they don't want to be touched because of, could have been various things that have happened, but it's shut that down. And through shutting that down, it could also be just something to do with like, lacking exercise and, people who, I don't know, people, there's lots of controversy on like raw food and things like this, but for a woman, that's not always necessarily the most ideal thing. If we end up having a cold constitution in our body, this could, again, off balance the health of our womb as well. So the things that we would do in this instance is we would look at using our heart energy to warm our womb space. We would look at learning how to do massage and implement different practices that really bring our womb space into the picture of our lives, so we can have more attention to ourselves, and we can begin to activate more life force energy when we do this. And when we actually look at creating a sacred ritual around our self-pleasure and reconnecting that ability for women to connect to their own bodies first and foremost, because again, this could also come from having an incident maybe with a sexual partner that didn't go right, and then we shut ourselves down and off from our life force. So we start to cultivate that safety back in our bodies through ourselves and remembering it's safe, releasing the shame that we might have around our womb space, around our intimate area and being intimate as a woman for a woman. And then we sort of will change our behavior patterns, and then hence that also starts to warm the womb and starts to bring back that libido and that fresh life force energy. So we have number 5 here now, Number five, I'm talking about miscarriage. Now, this could also even be miscarriage or abortions as well, because sometimes, we still can go through a mourning process. We can still have a lot of guilt and confusion about what we've done if we've chosen that path as well. And some of these cases, it really depends, but for me, I would personally look at an energetic of why someone may have had a miscarriage. It could be that that soul was passing through in a particular way, like very quickly through the womb. It could be like an energy there that you needed to learn that experience in that life. It could just be that you wasn't ready. Again, we have lots of things going on in our lives. Could be to do with, again, another past life experience. So we could take a look at past lives. We can take a look at our ancestral line and see if there's any patterns that have happened there. We can start to release that, releasing any shame, any unwanted emotions that are causing us to feel frozen and guilty for what's happened. And then we may look at even holding, a ritual or a practice to honor that life, however you perceive to see it. Some people wouldn't think that there would be a soul during that time. Some people do. It's really different. And it could be different in terms of, because how I see things is that um, we're all divine creation experiencing as individual beings. And the soul, that one little fragment of divine creation, may choose to pass through in that way. Maybe it didn't, maybe nothing happened at that time in that sense. But for me, if I was to really look at everything being divine creation, then everything is, even these inanimate objects, we could say, is still a part of divine creation. I'm talking about my laptop and my camera that's right here. So when we start to see the divine in everything, we can then start to see how there are also gifts to be received through the divine, and deeper connection to ourselves on that path of love through us, through who we are and what we are. But of course, that might not feel helpful for everybody to think and have that perspective, and it's not for everybody to necessarily have that perspective either. But we can look at just honoring that experience as well. We can look at doing some womb clearing practices on the energetic so that we can start to make space if we wanted to try and conceive again. And we may wish to just clear out any of that energy that we were feeling about the experience overall, and start moving that energy again. Again, we need to start moving our energy again if we felt frozen in the experience. We want to keep that energy moving and flowing through our life so that we can feel the sustaining life force running through us rather than getting frozen in time through trauma. We start to bring more of ourselves back into the present moment. So here we have number 6, which is about menopause. Now, menopause is such a tricky subject, I feel, at the moment, because there is so much controversial information out there, and women go through such a different and challenging time, and it really has been, maybe over the last couple of years, that I think women are starting to get more accepted, and it being more of like a spoken thing about, in a nice way as well, not being judged or made fun of for these shifts and changes. But it can cause such a different disruption. And I truly believe that, if we are struggling to accept the changes and the transitions in our life, because so often in society we have been taught to stay young forever and to be a certain way. We're constantly worshipping the maiden, and this is how we're all meant to look forever and ever and ever. Yet we transition, we change, and there is such a beautiful and incredible process that can happen. So looking at how you can nurture your body through that time is some of the things that I absolutely love to do. And I do this not because I'm going through menopause, but even when I'm going through a really big transition in my life. And I like to do this And I think that this is a very potent one for menopause, and that's having a ceremony like a death ritual or kind of like a funeral almost, like for that old self, that old past, and honoring and celebration of that life, of that time and those experiences, and then bringing in this new level of celebration of this new being, and feel like you're birthing this new part of yourself. And that in that process, it's like this deeper sense of acceptance and love, and you start to go with the flow and the motions of what menopause has to offer. Then you can start to get some of these gifts in return. You start to then see the lightness of these experiences and the lightening of the experience, because, of course, the transition will actually change the process essentially. And we might look at doing things with our kidneys here, because when we look at building up chi in the kidneys, this really helps with blood circulation. Working with jade eggs are also really good because it helps with the yoni and moving the muscles and supporting the lubrication. And then we also have, doing these inner work, doing this processing so that you can start to feel more stability in your emotions, and you're starting to learn and accept this transition. Begin to educate yourself on how you can actually nurture yourself in this way. Maybe you want to work with a herbalist, to have some herbs by your side and start to slow life down, and so that you can then navigate and start to do things that you want to do in life. To let this creational energy that maybe isn't so much in your womb space, but now move to a different part of your life in your body. It's not that it's going away. It's not that it's, that there's a deterioration. It's actually a great power that comes from transitioning into this stage of womanhood. Hey, number 7. So I'm just going to kind of categorize some of these things, but of course they all vary degrees. But we do obviously have cervical cancer and cysts, and endometriosis is one of the highly common ones nowadays. I have so many women talk to me and want to understand how to support them through discovering that they have endometriosis. Okay, I haven't actually had any clients with cancer, but these things can definitely help. I work very much with this somatic and also the subconscious, and seeing how the subconscious is playing out. So we sort of like move with our body in a way that we can see what the stories are, because those stories are probably creating holding patterns in the body that we're not fully aware of, like these thought forms. So we start to get the thought forms out into conversation with the body, and the body starts to demonstrate how's that being held in the body, and where is it being held in the body. So we can start to do that, and that will start to give us more information. And then we can start to be more laser focused then on what we need to clear and heal for ourselves, to actually fully be present with what needs healing, and to transition some of those things. Because, oftentimes when there's an imbalance with our cells, it's because they're not feeling happy, they're not feeling coherent. And my belief system is that we have these little thought forms and these beliefs that run around in our head, run around in our mind, our subconscious, that actually run around the whole body, then in the cells, like creating, how I see it, from a very, like, I don't know what perspective you would even call this, but this is just how I see things. When I do healings with people, I see geometry, and the geometry is like information to me, and I somehow understand it. Like, I don't know, okay, why or how this has happened for me, but that's just how I navigate uh, energy healing, is looking at the geometry. And usually I can see when the geometry isn't in harmony, and it's almost like it's just out of balance. It doesn't look like sacred geometry. Whereas when you start to reharmonize the energy, you start to see these beautiful sacred geometry. And in later years, recent years, should I say, I've come across lots of information that's really given me so much clarity on the healing that I'm perceiving and seeing when I'm working with clients. And that is looking at cymatics, when we look at sound, vibration, and how it starts to create these beautiful sacred geometry when we play like classical music, for instance. And then if you start to play like really rough, out of sync music, it would just wouldn't shape very well. And then we look at Dr. Emoto's work. I'm always referencing him because honestly, what he has done is reminded us that we are such a large body of water. Even our blood is liquid. And so when we, and fascia, the lymphatic system, all of these different parts of our body, okay, that can actually create geometry and shape. If we look at Dr. Emoto's work, who used the water experiment to see the crystallization of love and hate and all other ranges of emotion, we see the different structures. And of course, the love, the joy, the bliss was creating these beautiful sacred geometric patterns. So you can imagine if we're constantly thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, like what energy patterns is that creating? Because it's a vibration. So I quite keenly like to work with women on shifting belief systems, shifting the patterns. We do it through somatic liberation. We also do it through, subconscious repatterning, EFT, and even just being present with like our thoughts. Go right, really think every day when you notice, like when you go to do something, when you watch someone else's video, like if you go, oh, they're better than me, or this and that, and start to notice it so you can start to change it. And these things will start to shift on the body level as well. But in terms of Qigong and Tao Tantra, then we would look at cultivating some healthy life force and also doing lots of clearing energies as well. So we're releasing lots of stagnant energy as well that's not supporting us anymore. Okay, last but not least. Okay, so it kind of, this is just a general, really. It's like generally sometimes people just come because they want to look after their womb space. They've started to notice in society that, they've learned that tampons have toxic chemicals and bleach in them, and they're worried about what implications that's had. They start to learn that, oh, you can actually track your cycle, and maybe there's other alternative ways of really understanding my body, you know? And they want to understand more, they want to feel more connected to their body, they want to feel more connected to divine and creation. And they know on a deeper level, or maybe they've just been listening to me, that, oh, like actually by connected to my body, connected to my sexuality, my sensual energy, that I can make that connection much deeper, because there's more to life than just being in this sort of stagnant human robotic behavior. There is actually a way that I can uniquely express myself, and that in turn liberates me to be the feminine body that I've been in. Maybe you've had past life memories. I get so many women come to me with past life memories or entity attachments and things that happened to them with boyfriends or partners or some kind of misaligned experience that they've had. And all those things just kind of, they feel like, right, I need to learn how to be self-aware of my own energy and clear out energy of other men and or people, because it could not necessarily men or always, so it's about really getting to know your body overall, and having those protocols is key for so many women. Like all women should really know how to have this level of self-care. This is a part, I think, in society that we have diminished, and I've said this time and time again about the witch hunts and all these different things that really cut out herbalism. They cut out women who would gather together and support each other through their menstruation, through their ovulation, through giving birth in such a primordial way, in such a beautiful witchy way. They're all together supporting one another. There are still in this parts of the world where we have these old stone circles where women would go, and they're called fertility um, circles, or fertility, forgetting the last name, um, fertility like spaces basically that are a bit more like stones and maybe a bit underground kind of thing. But they would go in there to give birth. They would go in there when they were bleeding and ovulating, all these different things together to support and raise that energy. And this is the kind of thing that we don't have in today's society, but we can start to recollect that, you know? So a few just other little things that would have been like breast cancer can also be another one, which we would look at maybe doing some breast massages like off the breasts themselves, but just really working in the energetics. And then we have something like UTIs, also very common. So yes, bringing self-care through the space of the womb, through the perspective of a feminine body, not just general self-care that comes from every, that anyone can do. It's like this, how do we nurture this feminine anatomy? You have breasts, you have ovaries, you have particular hormones, you have particular connection to your ancestors as well through your womb space. How do we look and after that and nurture that part of ourselves? And this is the way to do it. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video and it's brought some insights. So thank you so much.